Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, once again, we're stepping into the deep, dark, seedy underbelly of football, that crusty, nah, I'm kidding, nah, I'm kidding. Once again, it is time, that time, for Pitch Talk Meets, another installment of Pitch Talk Meets, the interview series that looks to get behind the scenes and look at kind of a different part of football. But I am pleased to say that our guest is not only a former chairman of a grassroots club, that being Ibis FC, but also a full-time Ibis FC legend as well. I would like to ask Mr. Rob Lusher, how goes it? How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Liam. Yeah, that was quite some introduction. I don't normally get that from you on a Saturday.
Well, we'll get into what we get on a Saturday.
Okay, all right. Well.
Very much so. But yeah, man, how have you been, man? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. Busy at work. Bit injured, so not playing at the moment, but having a bit of time out.
The beginning is the first chapter that we're going to go into. Who is Rob Lusher and what does he stand for?
Rob Lusher and what does he stand for? Well, day to day I'm a lawyer. I did run Ibis FC for approximately 10 years. What
motivates you? Is it law, is it football, or is it something else?
I think probably what motivates me is working hard so I can do the things I want to do and then enjoying myself, really. Wow. Life's too short.
Nah, definitely. I was going to say you only live once, but that's a bit cornball these days.
Okay.
Everyone's used it as a phrase. But how did you get into football? How did you kind of start in football?
Well, it was a bit of a prolonged start. I didn't play at school because I went to one of those posh schools that played rugby, and not exactly built for rugby. And then at university, I wasn't good enough to get into the university team. So it really started in my early 20s when I moved to London. Heard about Ibis FC through a friend, joined up, quite liked the people, and took it from there, really. Oh,
okay. So it was kind of a recommendation that got you into it?
Yeah, it was definitely word of mouth through a friend from Ipswich, and joined probably in 2000, 2001. Started playing twos football, second team, and then slowly progressed down to the fours.
I love progressed. It's a nice way of putting it. Who did you look up to in the game when you were growing up?
Well, I'm from Ipswich originally, so probably Johnny Walk was pretty good back in the day. Bobby Robson, he lived on my street, so I kind of knew him a bit. So I looked up to them. One of your favourite players, probably John Barnes. He was pretty good back in the day, in the 80s. Yeah, so I probably looked up to sort of the Ipswich legends, Bobby Robson, Johnny Walk, Mick Mills, all these sort of 80s players.
Bobby Robson did
Chris Kiomya.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's recently. Have you heard that recently? He's actually gone into management. Yeah, well, he's taken over at Notts County.
Has he?
Yeah, he's recently.
He was at the at Ipswich Academy for a bit, I think, and a scout there. But yeah, he was a good player in the 80s.
What team do you support and why?
Well, I'm from Ipswich, so I support Ipswich. It's my local team.
Tractor boy.
Yeah, we used to have sports on a Saturday at the school I went to, which was usually rugby, and I hated it. And as soon as that finished, sort of about 2 o'clock, I used to run down to Pullman Road and try and sneak in and watch the game.
Were you lucky enough to sneak in?
Yeah, I was, yeah. I did pay though.
No, I love it. I love it. How did you get in? How did you get into law? Well,
I studied it at university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And actually at university, it's a pretty interesting degree to do. You do sort of all the morals of laws and the reasons behind it. So I quite enjoyed doing all of that. And then the next progression really was to go to law school and do the more practical side of it. And followed that up and needed to get a job, and was lucky enough to get a training contract in London, and then moved to the firm that I'm currently at, which is a nice sort of small firm. We do sort of commercial property stuff, which not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's a nice bunch of people that I work with.
Grassroots football is the next chapter that we're going to jump into.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone looking to start up a grassroots or amateur league club?
Starting up will be quite a big task to take on. I don't think you should underestimate the amount of work that you have to put in, and obviously you're not paid for that, so it's all done in your spare time, lunch hours, after work. So first of all, a lot of commitment. Secondly, you've got to have a group of people who are willing to commit to the time. So you've got to be sure about their commitment. And secondly, who are willing to pay for it, because it's not run on love alone.
Yeah.
So you obviously have to pay pitch fees, kits, league registration fees, referees, in our case tees as well. So it doesn't come cheap, but anything in life that's worth anything is worth working hard for.
No, definitely, definitely. Our first fan question from Mike Harneman, who's one of our Pit Talk regular Skypers. What are the main changes in the way that grassroots football has been played?
That's a good question. So probably since I ran Ibis FC, they introduced at first team level linesmen. The idea being that it would attract better quality players to the league if it was run in a more professional way.
Yeah.
I actually voted against that in the committee meeting on the basis that it would take officials away from regulating at lower down level, at the fours level. And it's very difficult to get referees at that level. But I think in retrospect, it probably has risen the level of the league by having linesmen in at that level. And the other thing that they've just introduced this season, which you'll be aware of playing fours, is rolling subs, which I think is an absolutely brilliant idea. At our level of football, when you're looking at the really grassroots, the main thing is to get people playing, get people enjoying them and giving them a good run out. And if you've got more regulated substitutes, you might get someone who only plays for 20 minutes and they've given up their whole Saturday effectively for that. So I think rolling substitutes has been absolutely a brilliant intervention. Well done, the Southern Amateur League, for doing that.
I hear that. I mean, I agree. I think it's a really good. I think it's a really good idea, and it kind of ties in. It kind of ties into our next question, in terms of what is your view on the apparent decline of people playing 11-a-side, and especially in recent years, especially in comparison to 5-a-side, which seems to be rising in terms of how many players they're getting in. And do you think rolling subs will help arrest the decline of people playing 11-a-side?
I think it will. I think the idea of rolling subs will definitely make people let people enjoy their football more, and therefore encourage people to come and play. As to why the number of people playing 11-a-side football is decreasing, I don't know. Possibly, maybe it's to do with TV. There's more TV on football on TV, and as a result of that, they're happy sitting there watching it as opposed to playing it. Maybe it is all the sort of social media side of things, and there's other things to do on a Saturday. I don't know, computer games and all of that, as opposed to playing football in the street, which is probably what happened in the good old days.
I used to love that. I used to love it. I used to love it, just playing until it got dark, and then, oh crap, got to go home. Yeah. But do you think football's almost lost a bit of soul because you don't kind of get that kids playing football on the streets till all hours of the night, and the computer games becoming more realistic and more football on TV? Do you think football's lost a bit of soul because you don't, the kids really, it's so easy to pick up a control pad and just start playing, and it's
no, I don't think
so
it's,
easy to watch it?
I don't think it's lost its soul. I think it's always had the attraction, it's had the passion, and probably with the introduction of TV, maybe more so than ever, people are more passionate, people are discussing it on forums. So there is that, there's obviously loads of benefits to the social media side of things and the TV influx. So I don't think the soul's been lost from football. I think it's there, and I think it's strong, and I think it will continue to be strong. It's a great game.
No, definitely. Hey,
we love it.
Yeah, exactly. The pitch is where we eat, sleep, and talk.
Not sure about that.
So they were just dropping in slogans all over the shop. But again, another question from Mike Harneman via email. What are the main differences between grassroots level and the professional game, from your angle in terms of?
Well, from my angle, very grassroots level. There's obviously the massive gulf of golfing quality. But probably the most frustrating thing as someone who's organising a football club is the commitment you get from the individuals involved, from the players, who probably don't see the time and the effort and the workload that you put in outside of a Saturday and them just turning up and playing. So the biggest gripe I would have had whilst running Ibis was the fact that people might not reply to an email. They might say they can play and then phone up on Saturday morning saying, actually, I've had one too many shandies and I'm not going to make it.
We've got a couple of questions in regards to that coming up.
So that's always that's obviously a vast gulf, because that wouldn't happen in the professional game, and if it did, then you wouldn't be playing professional for very long.
That's a good point.
You'd be gone. But obviously the fact that they've got so much money into the professional game, all the facilities, they have full-time staff working, promoting it, and there's almost no comparison, although basic game of 11-a-side football is the same, obviously.
How hard was it to run a club at grassroots/amateur league level?
Well, we have touched on it a bit already, but it's pretty hard. But I think there's a lot of rewards that come out of it. Ibis, for example, it's in its centenary year, so it's been going a long time, and there's a lot of tradition behind that, and that's really good. There's the bonding that you get with the community, there's the bonding you get with the players, and that's really positive as well. The difficulty is getting people to commit, getting people to pay, getting people to turn up at the right place at the right time. These very basic things, and finding players, finding A players and B quality players is really very difficult. We relied a lot on word of mouth. And I think other clubs may have some sort of feeder system where they're associated with a school, which is really good. So people can, after they leave school, they can carry on playing football. Excellent. But clubs like ourselves, it's run on word of mouth mainly. When I tried running it, I tried to install some sort of affiliation with the university to try and get players who used to play at university who had moved to London to carry on playing football. But that worked to a degree, but not to the degree that I was hoping it would, because one of the other teams in the league, a team called Knutsborough, affiliated with Nottingham University and Loughborough University, and they're a very, very good outfit, and they seem to get young players keeping coming in, and as a result don't have to rely on old people like me.
I'm going to end up in that bracket soon. I'm probably in that bracket now because of the rickety leagues. But how much do you think the grassroots? Another question from Mike Harneman via email. How much has the grassroots game changed and evolved during your time at Ibis?
I'd like to say that the standard has improved, gone up, but if I'm brutally honest, probably since I took it over, the standard has decreased. I don't know why that is. It was just difficulty in recruiting good quality players in my instance. But having said that, I don't know whether it's because I ran it and therefore knew a lot of people. I think the social side of it has really improved as a club. I think we've become excellent like that, not only in going out socially, but also mixing in business circles, people that you meet through the football club.
Yeah.
That has evolved into probably more of a little community. So you might actually think, oh, I need something done. Oh, I wonder if someone at Ibis knows someone or they can do it. And I think that's really improved since we took over. And I think maybe that the thing that might have helped that was moving from our ground where we didn't really have a clubhouse to somewhere where we do have a clubhouse where you can have a drink after the game and have a chat about what you're up to.
Yeah, because I remember. I actually remember those days. They're down when we were in Boston Manor.
Yeah.
I remember playing there a few times. It's like, yeah, I remember my first ever game for the club was for the Twos. It was for the Twos down at Boston Manor. Tweaked my knee in that game.
We're desperate then.
Yeah.
Desperate players.
Yeah. Went down to the trainer. I thought, oh, okay, I did all right. You're playing Twos, all right.
No.
But
yeah, you're picking the glass off the pitch before you started.
Yeah.
Down there. So.
Yeah. You see the Piccadilly line trains every 2 minutes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, they've just scored. Oh, crap. The old distractions. I mean, you said that you mentioned about the social side has improved. What's your view on the Newcastle tour being cancelled this year? We've got a couple more questions about the Newcastle tour coming up. But what's your feeling on it being cancelled this year?
Well, it is a shame, but maybe it's one of those things where you just need a year off doing it. Maybe it's run its course and we need to maybe think about going elsewhere. Different city, mix it up, because if you go to the same place each time, you kind of, well, maybe people have got a bit tired of it. Yeah. Although, having said that, it's really good when you go. Yeah,
we're gonna come into that in absolute spades, because it's worth having a little natter about.
Yeah, I just wonder maybe we could mix it up, and it takes a lot of organising to organise a tour. And Woody, who is the guy who organises it, is incredible and organises it meticulously, and it goes so smoothly and it's so fantastic. Maybe we need someone else to take on that role. And do a tour to, I don't know, Malaga or somewhere like that. Might get more interest.
No, I heard that. So, in terms of the grassroots game itself, as opposed to just the kind of microcosm of Ibis, would you say the grassroots game has evolved a lot in the kind of 10 years that you were at the helm of the club? Did the game itself change a hell of a lot, or was it just that you saw things changing within Ibis and not much changing within the game? Because you mentioned about the rolling subs.
Yeah, that was good. I think on the whole, it's the standard. I can only really speak for the Southern Amateur League. The standard has probably improved. I mean, the rep team are a very good standard and won the National Carlsberg Championship, and sort of a competition against all other amateur leagues in the country, and they went off to represent England in Italy on some European sort of, I don't know, European tournament or something like that. So I think the standard is probably as strong as it, if not stronger than before, and I think it's probably alive and well, yeah, alive and kicking.
Ibis FC is our next chapter. Was always going to be a main chapter.
Okay, it's a nice chapter.
Considering your affiliation with the club, my affiliation with the club, to an extent, Gavin's affiliation with the club.
Absolutely.
was always going to be quite a main segment, and this is a segment I've been waiting for actually. So you've mentioned about how you found out and joined Ibis. How did you start or get into running the club? Because obviously there's a huge chasm between just being a player and then ended up running it. How did you get into it?
I think desperation of the club.
It's that bad?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's difficult to find people who are willing to put the time and effort in to run a football club. So I think the year after I joined, the fourth team captain hung up his boots, so then I became captain of the fours, and at that time there was a guy called Wiggy who was running it. He then moved to Manchester, so it was left to someone to pick up the reins, and I don't know if you know Mark Chapman, the guy on full-time on BBC, Chappers.
Ah, okay, yeah.
He was part of the club, and myself and him started running the club together, and then his career kind of took off, so he didn't really have the time to do it. So I ended up being the last man standing, and really it is more desperation of needing someone to do it rather than, oh, I was an excellent candidate.
I think, for what it's worth, I think you did a great job running the club. I mean, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. There's no brown nosing involved in that.
No, I'm gone now.
There wasn't.
Slag me off as much as you like, Liam.
You know, we're gonna cover. I think one of the catch questions. Yeah. We're gonna come into that. But when you were in charge of the club, what was the club structure? What was the hierarchy?
Yeah, it was different to what it is today. So when I took over, it was basically 4 separate teams run by 4 different people. So there wasn't much of a sort of club feel about it. So you might get a couple of excellent players playing 4s, you might have a couple of excellent players playing 3s, and similarly not so good quality players playing 1s, just because that's the people who they knew.
Yeah.
So what myself and Chaffers tried doing was to run it like a football club. So the best players play in the 1s, and you work yourself down until you find me and you in the 4s. And that, I think, was a good move, because I think that's how a club should be run, as opposed to just sort of a pub team, which is just mates who come in and play wherever. But then the difficulty with that was you possibly took friends away from playing with each other. But I think for the club to progress, you want all your best players playing in the 1s and working your way down. And in fact, that's part of the club, the SAL rules, as far as I'm aware now, and probably has always been. Yeah, we changed it. That was our main change, and trying to find a clubhouse.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I personally know on a basic level what the club structure was. So who was it? Was it the chairman? Who else was involved in running the club when you started? And what did that morph into by the time you had kind of stepped back from it?
Yeah.
Who was in place?
So the club, before I took over, had the 4 captains who'd emailed their squad, and each team was pretty much had nothing to do with one another. If the 1s were short one week, they'd have to find someone as opposed to take from the 2s. What we did was we centralised the email system. So we sent one email out to the whole club, and then the idea being that everyone replied, and then effectively I chased for replies, and then picked the teams from that point. And then once I'd picked the teams, the captains would then email the players with the meet time and the meet place. So I suppose after I'd chased, there was me involved, there was the 4 captains, and then you have to have a match secretary and a referee secretary. The match secretary organises the fixtures, the referee secretary organises the referees. And then I happen to do the teas as well, just ring up the lady and say we need 2 teas this week or 1 tea this week. And, so there's probably 4 captains, me and 2 others, so 6, 7 of us, something like that.
So was that how it started, or?
No, well, it started off with just the captains emailing their particular squads and then finding players from wherever they could. And we, myself and Chappers, decided to change that around a bit. And I think that's probably, time-wise, has been more efficient. And the guy who's now taken over, Tris, is, I think he's probably slightly better than me in that he doesn't chase players, and if you want to play football, it's your responsibility to reply. And although initially you may lose out on possibly quality players who don't reply and would have played if you chase, you get to a point where enough's enough. If you want to play football, you should be replying.
No, I totally. No, I totally agree. I totally agree, because it's like, if you really want to play, you will reply. You'll take the time to reply. Yeah. That's how I see it as well. I mean, there's a couple of different people involved in kind of the, not necessarily the running, but in terms of the club. So I know there is a treasurer, for instance, and a couple of other people kind of involved. Can you tell us a little more about that? So so essentially just kind of break down the structure and who's directly involved in that.
At the very top, you've got the chairman.
Yeah.
Then we have a treasurer, a guy called Steve Bone, who's very good with the finances. We've got fixture secretary, so he'd phone up the Oppo and arrange the meet time, meet place. Referee secretary, who organises the refs, and the 4 captains who would email the team sheets out. We've got a results secretary who then phones the scores in. And that's about it. I think, well, the tea lady we share with another club, so she organises the teas.
I was going to say, that sounds a bit wrong, actually. We share a lady with another club.
Yeah, not like that.
22 men, 1 woman, who will survive? I don't even know where that came from by now. But so you've mentioned that you were chairman of the club for a decade, weren't you?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
About that. So how was the social side of the club at the start, and how did it change in terms of when you were chairman of the club? Did people start treating you differently when you became chairman of the club in terms of on nights out, or did anything change? Did anything kind of physically change?
No, I don't think anyone treated me any differently just because I was chairman.
So no brown nosing to get higher up the club, pretending?
No, definitely not. No. They were still just taking the piss. But socially, yeah, I think it probably improved. Say, sort of the clubhouse probably helped. A few beers after the game helped. And for me personally speaking, it was when I moved to London, I knew my school friends, I knew my university friends, but it was great socially to meet people who you otherwise wouldn't meet in my day-to-day circle of being a lawyer. So it was very, very, very varied. For example, you know, meeting Chappers, meeting journalists, meeting you guys, meeting people involved in IT, people involved in the club industry. All of these sort of people I would probably never have met had it not been for Ibis. So I think it's a really good thing to do, to join a local club. Yeah, and try and get some sort of community spirit back based.
I heard that. Yeah. From Graham Smith via Facebook, one of his questions are hilarious. He asks, where did he get that cream suit and what prompted him to first become androgynous? That's from Graham Smith.
That's a lot of syllables for Graham to get out of his mouth. The cream suit, aka the Del Monte suit, I think probably came from Burton's when I was going through the wedding phase. There was a lot of summer weddings going on. It was cool in the 90s. What can I say?
Ooh, they're stretching it a bit. Cream suits cool during the 90s. We all remember the Spice Boys. Oh my God.
That was the look I was going for.
So just imitating Jamie Redknapp, just swelling out in the.
Yeah, I don't think he ever wore a cream suit. To be fair, he probably had more taste.
Oh, I was gonna say the Liverpool Man United Cup final. They all came out in cream suits. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the Spice Boys tape. Oh, it was terrible. But what prompted you to first become androgynous? The other part of that question. I just love that question.
You know, it's just I have no idea. It's a good question, Graham. Thanks for that.
On more of a slightly more of a serious note, actually not really that much serious. Tell us a bit about the infamous annual Ibis FC Newcastle tours, because one of the things that got me hooked into the Newcastle tours, because the first year I joined the club I didn't go, but I think I went. a year later, a year or two later. I remember an iconic image of yourself that did the rounds on the emails of you starkers running into the sea.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That has been emblazoned on my brain for years. That sort of image made me think, you know, that Newcastle tour's got to be something special.
Okay.
But tell us a bit about the Ibis Newcastle tours, because I'm saddened that it's not happening this year.
Yeah.
Especially with it being our centenary year as well. But tell us a bit about what goes on those tours.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
Well, we can work around there. We can work around names.
Well, okay.
But what's the general?
We normally meet on a Friday at 6 o'clock at King's Cross, catch the train. Our sponsor, Mark Furnace, kindly supplies a lot of beers and usually a bit of KFC. And we proceed to drink all the way up to Newcastle and usually empty the carriage from... everyone sort of moves their seats and tries to get away from us. Then Slovak Mike pukes in Newcastle when he gets off the train, and then we fall into some club, and the rest should probably stay on tour.
I mean, there usually is that hungover match on the Saturday.
Oh yeah, there is a football match. Yeah. I completely forgot the football match. I'm sorry, Liam. Yeah, there's a football match the next day, and we always lose that. And then we go out again, and there's usually some more booze involved.
Last year was the exception though, because we actually
really?
beat them last year.
Yeah, I didn't go last year. That's why. So yeah, then more booze, and then I think someone ends up going to a strip club and then splitting up with their girlfriends, but that will remain nameless.
Oh my God, there was that story. I think it was not last year, but the year before. Yeah, that was, yeah.
And then we come back ruined on Sunday. I mean, it's probably like every other football tour in the world, but...
Just coming back, we're all just coming back, give me my headphones, give me water.
Yeah.
I remember from, not this past year, but I think it was the year before, I think it was what was it? I think it was one person in particular had been to a lady's house and came back who had a girlfriend, came back in the morning, and the words that were said to him in the morning in the hotel bar were, "You dirty little stop out." Those were the first words upon him walking in, and it was like, oh my word. There have been some experiences.
Yeah.
There have been some events on that tour that I will never forget. One involving you as well.
Really? Okay.
I'm not going to go any further on that. But there's been so many little.
I'm intrigued. I don't know what it is. I can't think.
I'm not going. What happens on tour stays on tour. I'll say that much. Apart from a good friend of mine, Mark Gould.
Yeah, is he a fan of pitch talk?
Yeah, I think he is. Well, he has been. Okay. But there have been some funny moments involving him in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
2 tons of fun. I'm gonna leave it as that before I reveal something that's not supposed to be revealed. But yeah, video question from the G-Man actually. Let's roll into it.
What would you say is the hardest thing about running a football club?
Hardest thing about running a football club is getting the players to turn up at the right place at the right time.
That's the single hardest. Was there anything else that was difficult about? I know you touched on it previously, but
people not replying to emails. But the most frustrating thing is when people say they can play and not turning up at the right time, or phone me up and going, "Where is it again?" When you're like, "We sent an email to you yesterday."
Is that ref included?
The refs are great. I have nothing bad to say about anyone who's prepared to ref a football game.
What was the easiest thing about running the club then?
The easiest thing about running the football club, nothing was particularly easy. I think meeting people I found it pretty easy and pretty nice, enjoyable part of running the football club. I suppose as you're running it, everyone knows you.
Yeah.
So everyone says hello. So that's always pretty nice, and that's pretty easy.
It's kind of like Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah.
So have you met Lusher? Yeah, he's great. It's always that. So that's a nice thing to know actually. From Graham IS again on Facebook.
I'm gonna like this one, am
I? What he asked, what were the best and worst bits about being chairman?
The best bits was probably again meeting people, but specifically when our sponsor sort of came out and gave me about 200 notes in cash just to go and spend on beer for everyone. Yeah, that was a bit of a highlight. Sort of carrying loads of money around and being able to actually spend it and not being mine. That was pretty good.
It's not coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
What were some of the worst things about it?
The worst things about it, just I suppose the stress and the time when you're really busy at work doing my job, I suppose, which is quite stressful in itself, and then having to find the time to organise Ibis, organise the players, organise the emails that go out, organise the payment of the registration fees and all of that.
Yeah.
That's it's annoying, but you know it's worth doing because it's a fantastic thing to be able to do on a Saturday.
I like that. I mean, that ties in nicely to our next question, actually. How much time did you have to spend day to day running the club in terms of chasing players, etc.?
Yeah, I would spend. I would send an email out first thing Monday morning, and that was a stock email, copy and paste, maybe 5-10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I would probably spend every lunchtime, 1 hour every lunchtime, organising Ibis. So that's probably another 5 hours, and then maybe an hour or so in the evening. So probably sort of 6-7 hours on top of your working week, and also other things, your social life that you need to have.
It's kind of
almost
a part-time job.
It is almost a part-time job, but I think you can with the help of with the introduction of email, which is obviously not a new system now, but it certainly helped. Communicating with lots of people all at the same time. So that's a good time saver.
Did you find it hard balancing work and running Ibis FC?
Yeah, very hard. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, but you kind of get into your routines, and I very much stuck to those routines of sending out the email first thing Monday morning, and then each lunch hour dedicating my lunch hour to running the club. Mm-hmm. And I think in that way it doesn't impact quite as much on the things you have to do in life, your work, your family, your your social side of things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's doable, but there's other people out there who are helping you with it. So you're not taking it all on your own. Obviously, when you go on holiday, you're passing it on to someone. So it's not difficult. It's just a bit time consuming. And can be annoying when people don't reply.
From Graham IS via Facebook, what were the biggest impacts on your legal career?
Biggest impacts on my legal career. I think, first of all, getting a 2-1, because without getting a 2-1 at university, it's pretty hard, I think, these days to get a training contract. And then joining the firm I'm currently at, I hadn't done a lot of property experience, and they gave me the opportunity. And in fact, the reason I ended up applying to that was through Ibis, because one of the players played for Ibis as well, and one of the guys who worked there played for Ibis. So it's probably down to that guy. So Ibis, actually, ironically, was the reason I managed to get a job and be pretty happy in the law.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to in regards to that?
Powley.
I haven't seen Powley in ages. I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dirty dog. Anyway, carry on.
No, he was my competition at left back for about a year or two. So yeah. I remember that. I remember those days. How did you deal with last minute dropouts from teams? Because obviously it's going to happen.
Well,
quite a lot, so.
If we had enough numbers through in other teams, we'd bring people up. So if there was 13 in the twos, and when someone dropped out from the ones, we might bring someone up to from the twos to play. So we dealt with it that way, generally through taking players from lower down to fill in. But what one of the captains, Sam Lyons, suggested was, instead of taking someone who's been playing for that team consistently throughout the season and disrupting that team as well as the other team, you take someone who was going to be a sub for the lower team and use them as a sub for the higher team, which I think probably is a good idea. I have also been known to grab someone off the side who was walking his dog to come and play for us, and he actually turned out to be a really good player and stayed with the club for a couple of years as well. So I'll ring up, I'll pick people off the streets, I'll do anything if we're short of a player. So
anything?
Almost anything.
I had to go down that road. They call me a wrong un on Mondays always. What was the funniest and or weirdest excuse you've ever had for someone dropping out of a game on a Saturday?
I think one guy ended up saying he didn't have any football boots, and another guy ended up, we were playing in Surrey, and I think he ended up in Hertfordshire. Sat nav, I think there was a town in Hertfordshire that had the same name as the town in Surrey, and he went to the wrong one.
So kind of like Hayes Kent and Hayes Middlesex. It's kind
That's
of like,
yeah, that was it. He went into Hayes Middlesex.
Oh my God.
So that was pretty poor. But yeah, those are the two worst ones. I mean, things happen. People break down, or people get ill and they can't turn up, and that's fine. But yeah, the main problem is the booze on the Friday night and people just not being up for it any longer, which is annoying.
I hear that. Speaking of being up for it and kind of G'ing people up, this is one I know you realise where I'm going with this. One of my favourite moments at the beginning usually at the beginning of the pre-season, was a profanity-laced kind of ritual at the beginning of the season. Tell us what did that entail, and be as colourful with your language as you want. But what did it entail?
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm very good, but I'm very clear to players that there's certain things required of them: replying to the emails, paying their registration and SAL fees, and generally the basics of wanting to play for a grassroots club. Mm-hmm. If they don't do that, then they know where they stand with me.
And where do they stand?
In a position they don't want to be.
Because I said it used to be one of my favourite moments of the season where, have you paid your reg fees? Yes, legend. Have you paid your reg fees? No. And it's like, oh my god. It used to be brilliant because I always used to know that I paid my reg fees. So I'm watching.
You're a good boy, Liam. You're a good boy.
Out, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was naming and shaming in a graphic way.
You want to give us a demonstration?
No.
Because as I said, I used to love those moments. Another video question from the G-Man, and that is...
As it's been revealed already, you're quite fond of using the term "see you next Tuesday." Well, not the term, the word. But what I wanted to really know is, are there any other fashionable words which you like using on and off the pitch?
Fashionable words I like using on and off the pitch. Well, I was kind of always known for sort of the two phases of play, I suppose. Which was fairly basic, of like first phase of play when you do have the ball, second phase of play when you don't have the ball. Other than that, no, I think it's a bit of a release for me on a Saturday, I grant you. It's a fair point. But when you're stuck in an office all day and you're doing something quite serious and quite straight, on a Saturday, you need a bit of time to just let loose and do things you're not normally doing on a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Yeah,
and that was useful. I think a lot of people do it, and I think a lot of people, when they're watching football, they suddenly become different people, but they use it as a bit of a release for them. All their pent-up aggressions of things going wrong in the week and the mundane lifestyle. So the goal celebrations and all of that come through, and before you know it, I'm bench pressing the corner flag. But
Because I totally agree with you on that. Because some people have said I turn into a different person when I'm on the pitch, and it's like, well,
a lot of people do. Yeah.
Bloody hell. But there's also another particular phrase that I know you for as well. And even when I'm watching football on the TV, I found myself screaming it. And there's 3 words involved in it: down, wide, deliver.
Yeah, well,
that's another one of yours.
Down, wide, deliver at our level is very important. Just get it down, get it wide, and put it in the box and see what happens. I think it's probably pretty basic, but at our level it works. Yeah,
it definitely works. It definitely works. I said you've drilled it so much into us that even I'm saying it when I'm not even anywhere near Ibis. It's like, I'm watching Liverpool matches and I'm like, get down, wide, deliver, come on. It's like, it's had an impact.
Everyone has their stock phrases. Yours is like, you can't change the past, but you can change the future when we concede a goal. I'm like, oh, I know, but we're conceding so many.
I like that.
It's true. Yeah. Very, very noble words, Liam.
I'll try. I'm the fan that the G-Man is just cracking up off camera as well. I love it. But on a slightly more serious tip, how hard was it to organise referees for the 4 teams that you had to organise on a week-to-week basis? Because I know at one point, I think you were away, and I ended up doing it for a few games in terms of organising the refs and taking captaincy of the 4s, which my record was 1-1, lost 1, drawn 1. By the way, good. For those looking to know. But it's how difficult was it to organise refs? Because I know you've touched on it briefly. But
yeah, it is difficult. And I have to say, there was during my time running it, there was a guy called Gareth Deneen at the SAL, who was the sort of SAL ref secretary and would put the referees that they had on their books to the relevant games. And he was absolutely brilliant, absolute legend. The guy does work so hard off the pitch and behind the scenes, and is absolutely brilliant for that. And I think he does a lot of work in developing referees, and he's very good at that. So when he came on board, my life got a lot easier in that regard. But I still had to find a referee for the 4th team level games for each home game, so probably a referee once every 2 weeks, and that was very, very hard. The G-man did it for a bit, and I had various other contacts that I'd sort of built up over the years that I could call. But I think it's one thing that one of the things, and the main thing is that at the very top level, you'll see the amount of abuse that referees take. And that does filter down to all these other lower grassroots levels. And as a result, people don't want to be referees. Yeah. And I think that's a real shame, because you can't play the game without the referee. And I think the FA at the very top level need to start looking at that and maybe take the more sort of a look at rugby and see how the players respect the referee and how they respond to the referee once he makes a decision. And maybe that might increase the number of referees coming through, because who wants to turn up on a Saturday for not particularly a lot of amount of money and get abused at and shouted at and sometimes physically abused. And I think if the top level professionals started to behave towards the referees in a better manner, that would filter down. It would be seen as being less acceptable, for example, to swear at a referee. Mm. And I think all the FA have to do is say, if you swear or answer back to a referee, you get a yellow card. If you do it again, you get a red card. Mm. And there'll be about a month of a spate of loads of red cards. But sure enough, Ferguson will tell them to stop doing it, and they'll stop doing it, and that will filter down.
No, definitely. I mean, do you think a lack of referees makes it harder for club chairmen in terms of trying to, well, get games going?
Yeah, I mean it's hard, but and worst case scenario, I suppose the substitutes have to do it, and then I think possibly people again will be more respectful towards referees. I have no qualms with sort of appealing for a decision, but once the decision is given, then I think you get on with it. But yeah, there have been instances that I've heard of in our league where referees are being chased off the pitch with players coming at them with all sorts of tools and things. So that sort of thing's not good, and I think it needs to be addressed at the top level.
Mm. No, definitely. Because at the end of the day, it's the whole kind of respect campaign, and as you've mentioned, in terms of respect for the referees, do you think there needs to be better training of referees as well? Because obviously at the top level, you kind of see a lot of high-profile mistakes and a lot of pretty bad mistakes at that. Do you think there needs to be better? Do you think if players saw that referees were being better trained, that they would give the referees more respect? Do you think it's kind of that, or is it just?
No, I think the referees on the whole do a pretty good job. Yeah, they do make a mistake, but they're human, and I think that's part and parcel of football. And in fact, in a way, that's what makes the game so amazing, in that it's so human. There are human elements of mistakes made in decisions, and that makes talking points for a Monday morning at work, and it's something to talk about, and it's exciting, and I think that's fine. And in rugby, the referees make mistakes as well, but in rugby, the players aren't in the referee's face. They're not swearing at the referee, and that's the way I think football needs to go. And if they do swear at the referee in rugby, they get off. So yeah, I think the training of referees is important, and we should definitely keep pushing that. But equally said, I think it's probably more important that we impose harsher penalties on players answering back, in my opinion.
That's a good shout. No, I think that is a good shout. In regards to organisation, from Kendall Campbell via email, what advice do you have for a young coach like himself, Kendall, who has to organise the team, finding sponsors and other administrative and coaching responsibilities.
What is he doing as a job?
He does coaching at Haringey Borough Women's FC, which is one of the two teams, the other being Ibis, that we feature on the grassroots segment of the show.
What's the question?
What advice do you have for a young coach like Kendall who has to organise a team, finding sponsors and other administrative and coaching responsibilities?
Keep at it, I think, really. Keep doing the badges, keep working at it, and through the hard work, success will prevail.
I heard that. I hope that's the answer you're looking for, Kendall. What is it like to now just be playing as opposed to running the club? Because you've been obviously player, running, and then coming back now to playing. Yeah. What is that like? What's the transition?
It's absolutely beautiful. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is reply to an email once a week. I love it. I don't have to think about the teams. I don't have to think about the refs. I don't have to think about anything. I can just get up in the morning, have a nice cup of tea, sit down, have a nice breakfast, have a chat to the missus, and go off and play football. I really enjoy it. I play a lot better. I've already scored 2 this season. That's unheard of for me.
Another video question from the G-Man.
Having done some refereeing for Ibis in the past, I've always looked at you as a bit of a Steven Gerrard type player on the pitch. But who would you say that you play like?
Who do I say that I play like? There was a player for Ipswich Town called Mitch Davray, and he hit the corner flag from a penalty. So, Mitch Davray. I'm no good at all. I'm no Stevie Gerrard.
Oh my God. You are good in the air though, I'll give you that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm alright. I scored a few. That's only because I shout loud. I just put the other player off. Yeah.
You know, I'll admit I have tried to follow that example. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. At left back, it's kind of like it's slightly less likely to work, but still do it anyway. In terms of just screaming a call for the ball.
All right, I see. You're successful at hitting the corner flag, though.
Yeah, pretty much. I've been successful scoring own goals as well, but I won't go into that. But you did touch on it earlier. But how hard is it to recruit new players into the club and into any grassroots level club? How hard is it to recruit players, and were colleges and universities approached, and were they quite easy to kind of strike up a rapport with?
Yeah, they weren't that responsive. I found I studied at Newcastle Uni, so I used them, and they were actually pretty good. They were obviously happy to provide a team to play at against us at the tour and provide facilities, and they were really, really nice and helpful. But other teams in London, other areas in London, the universities that I've approached, the local universities, they kind of want to promote their own clubs and own football teams, which is fair enough. And so it hasn't been. It is really difficult to find. I'd say it's really difficult to find quality players. You can pretty much advertise on a website and you'll get some sort of player, but the standard that possibly the SAL is requiring, it's difficult to find. And it's difficult to find committed players. People are prepared to, commit to 3 Saturdays at least out of the 4 in a month, and that's hard. But there are players out there, and people do want to play the game, and you've just got to keep plugging away, keep recruiting. Tell your club to keep recruiting, and intranets and all of that sort of stuff, and word of mouth, and you just got to keep at it, and you get the players in.
What methods did you use whilst you were chairman of Ibis to promote?
I did quite a lot. After the season finished, I'd probably give myself a month off of not doing anything, and then I went flyering around sort of the local universities. I put flyers up around the local pubs. I contacted Newcastle Uni. I advertised on websites. So all of those sort of ways of sort of trying to spread the net as wide as possible is how I did it. And yeah, you do get if you get one or two in from that can help sort of for the beginning of the season. You get one or two, and then you start saying, listen, have you got any mates who can come and play? And they go, yeah, actually, maybe I have.
Yeah.
And then you draw more players in like that. But it's just about casting that net wide, casting it often, I think. But
do you see any sort of kind of any kind of spike at the beginning of the season in terms of players coming in, and that kind of dies? That kind of dies off going into the winter months, or is it pretty constant? Are there any times of the year where it just kind of dries up totally?
Yeah, I mean, you want to try and do your recruitment obviously before the beginning of the season, so you can get used to playing with each other. So the big recruitment drive would be in the summer, a month or two before, and you do see a lot of people turning up, because it's beautifully sunny and people want to be outdoors playing football. And you get sort of 30 or 40 people at training, and then come November when it's snowing and raining horizontally in your face, you're ended up with like 5 or 6 playing sort of 2-on-2 or whatever. So that does, but I think that happens for every grassroots club, and you just got to keep trying to plug it, and yeah, you get there in the end. But I think it's month before pre-season, you just got to really start recruiting, and you can work out who's really interested, who's not. Ski season's obviously difficult for the Ibis as well, because we're quite a middle-class club, if I'm honest. So everyone goes off to the French Alps and for a couple of weeks, and you're left with no players. But
we're left slogging it out.
Yeah, but no, you get there in the end.
I mean, what do you think of what's been going on this season? Because this season there has been there's been quite a bit of trouble in terms of getting teams out, and there's been a lot of cancellations here and there from us in the fours. Obviously, we had that game away at Old Thorntonians that you scored that last-minute header in, and
got 2 in that game.
It was a good game, actually. It was a really good game, and like we had to obviously forfeit the next round. I mean, how do you see the issues that have been going on, especially in the fours, in terms of getting players? How have you? What's your take?
Well,
on
I think
the lack of players.
Inevitably, when sort of the transfer of probably me running it and to the new guys, Tris and his lot running it, there's a different way of doing it, and I think that's probably a bit of a transitional period and possibly to be expected. They're doing their best to get the players out and get fixtures completed. And inevitably, the league rules state the fours have to drop your lowest team first and play your higher team. So it's going to take an impact. But then again, if that's happening week in, week out, and people in the fours are upset, which inevitably they are, then they've got to get out there and get recruiting there, bringing their mates in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of obviously all of us have been trying. I mean, there's only so much you can do when the kind of team's changing from week to week. You don't know who's going to be playing in front of you, let alone next to you, from week to week. I mean, there's been a few constants in the fours. I mean, I'm personally glad to say I'm one of them. Yeah. I think I've been the only one to play every game, whereas a lot of people have kind of been in, out, missed game here, missed a game there. I mean, missing a game here and there, it's much mind. But when it's kind of like missing blocks of games at a time, I think it kind of makes it harder. But in terms of that, how helpful were the SAL and AFA, the Amateur Football Association, in terms of running the club, and how much more helpful could they have been?
I think the people who run the SAL, they're not doing it full time, and they're doing it voluntarily as well, and they have to do a heck of a lot of organising themselves. I don't think it's really their job to help us find players. I mean, they can direct websites, and we get a few players through the SAL website, which is useful. But it's up to us really as a club to recruit and try and retain players, and it's hard. And maybe Ibis might have to go down to 2 teams for a while, and then see how we go, and maybe we'll get a sort of affiliate with someone else and bring another club into us, and we can then go back to 4. But it's really difficult, and these things happen, and maybe we have to go down to a 2-team club for a bit.
Do you think that could potentially spark an exodus if you kind of reduce the amount of teams down?
Yeah, I mean it could, but then if we keep having to cancel I don't know because I'm not running it this season, but if we keep having to cancel games, then it's not fair on those players who are expecting to get a game of football on a Saturday like the 4s and not get regular football. So it might be best for them as well, but I just don't know what's happening this season because thankfully I no longer run it. Rob Lusher. Lawyer. Rock. Don't know any of them. Thunder Road by Bruce Springsteen. Steak. My girlfriend's dad took me to this amazing restaurant called Mosselman's. It's awesome. Replay. I don't know, fire trap. Trainers. Scarface. Yeah, Peep Show. Someone who plays house music. Springsteen. Johnny Walk. Ipswich Town. George Burley. Mum and Dad. Probably Mum and Dad. Average.
The future is our last segment.
Okay.
And the opening question. What have you been up to since you stepped down from being the chairman at Ibis?
Feet up, cups of tea, hanging out with the missus. What have I been up to? I've been enjoying my Saturday mornings. That's something that I really, really love because normally, almost without fail, every Saturday morning I'd get a call from someone saying they're dropping out and then have to rejig it all, and it'll all be pretty hectic. And now I don't get those calls, and I can lie in. I can watch a bit of like Football Focus or something else on TV, and just have a nice relaxing Saturday, and love it.
I hear that. Would you ever take up a role like that again if you were approached by Ibis or another club? Would you a chairman role? Would you?
It depends where I was in my life. I think I've done my bit for the time being, for the foreseeable future. Having said that, if I got into a situation, and let's make it perfectly clear I'm not in that situation right now, but if I became in a situation where I had children, I would probably be quite keen to sort of help run their kids team and probably have a bit of experience of running that. So yeah, I'll be up for that. I might be less expletive on a Saturday if I'm running a kids team.
No, no. Oh, you can't say that anymore.
That'd be wrong.
That actually ties directly in with our next question. Have you got any plans to go into football coaching or
I thought you were
management?
talking about children.
No.
No. No children are on the horizon, as far as I'm aware.
You're going to get surprised when you get
I
on to
hope
that. Have you got any plans to go into football coaching or management, though?
I have done my level 1 coaching, but really only if it came up, it would be, you know, running the kids side or something like that. But nothing, no serious plans.
So you wouldn't take it. So you wouldn't potentially take up the Ibis Fours or something like that in a coaching capacity, or?
No, I don't think so.
Or any other Ibis side?
No, I think I've done my bit, and I'm going to leave it to the younger crew to carry it on. Hold that torch, carry it on.
Fly the flag.
Yeah.
Question from Thomas Hewitt, aka @original T44 on Twitter. Affectionately known to us on Pitch Talk shows as Big T, so we got to throw them T's up for him. Do you think that the National Football Centre in England will help the nation win a major tournament in the next 10 to 15 years?
I didn't really know that there was a national football.
St George's Park.
Okay.
Do you think that's going to help?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned obviously about.
Yeah, I think it can't do any harm, and I think the FA are now sort of taking the approach. It's probably the way the Spanish have done it, that you start pretty young and you teach them a way of football, of just basically passing the ball really well.
So not downward deliver, it's just pass.
Yeah, it's all about passing and possession. So yeah. Whether we'll do it in the next 10 to 15 years, yeah, I don't see why not.
It's a confident man right there. It's confident. I love it. I love the confidence. Another question from Thomas Hewitt, aka Big T. Can you see a female manager becoming a coach or manager within the men's footballing world in the future?
Yeah, I'd like that. I think that would be good. I don't see why not. I think they're perfectly capable to do it, I think. And yeah, I see no reason why they shouldn't go to the highest level.
Would there be any candidates that you put forward in particular, or?
I can't remember the name, but there was I think one of the England players, female players, who was talking about going into management, but I can't remember her name. And I'm sure if they've played at that sort of level, then they'd be equally capable to do it. Because I wasn't sure Mourinho and they played at A level, but not a particularly high level. But he's a pretty good coach, so.
Yeah, same with Arsene Wenger. I know some of the better managers in the current game were actually really average players.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think?
I mean, they all did play professionally, as far as I'm aware. But
yeah, but I mean, in terms of the pro ranks, they're kind of very average. Yeah. They're not like a Pele or a Messi or whatever. Do you think you're more likely to become a better manager if you were an average player, or if you got a better chance if you were a great player?
Probably the former, in that you probably understand where players' difficulties come from if you're an average player. Whereas I remember reading some football autobiography, and when Glenn Hoddle became the England manager, he was just to the players, well, just take the ball on your chest, turn and volley it into the top corner. And he could do that very easily, but he couldn't understand the fact that not everyone was quite as gifted as he was. So one of the person who was writing the book didn't feel he was such a good manager.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe the lesser quality players do make good coaches.
From Graham IS on Facebook again.
I'm not enjoying his questions.
When did you first notice that you'd become a legend?
That's very kind of Graham, actually. Very unlike him to say that. When I went over 35, I think when I'm old, you can only then be a legend. But I'm not entirely sure I'm really a legend now.
I think you are. I think you're an Ibis.
Maybe in the very small Ibis pond, yeah.
But I mean, so would you see yourself as having left then kind of a indelible etch on Ibis FC? Do you feel that you have left a mark on the club?
Probably not a very good one. Not particularly, no. I mean, you know, I was just the guy who was running it. I've met some really nice people who I'm going to remain friends with forever. So that's probably the best and best thing that's come from it, in my opinion. And hopefully maybe I've left a mark on them and maybe taught some people how to play football, but I very much doubt it.
I hear that, man. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom?
No.
Everyone seems to answer no to that question.
Okay. Damn right, deliver.
I love it. But, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And you know what? That's been another installment of the series that is Pitch Talk Meets. Rob Lusher has been gracious enough to be our guest. Remember, every single Monday night of your lives, youtube.com/Pitch Talk. Also, facebook.com/Pitch Talk. Become a fan, become a friend, become a member of the group. Join the footballing revolution we're working so hard to create. Twitter.com/Pitch Talk or @Pitch Talk on Twitter. Tweet with us, follow us, see what we're up to. I've been Straight Shooting LJA, and on behalf of myself, the G-Man, and Jazzy Fizzle, we'll see you next time on Pitch Talk Meets.